Everybody, this meeting is called to order. Roll call, please identify yourself.
Barbara Griffin.
Sarah Enamorado.
Encore Sakari, designee for Controller O'Connor.
Judge Ivashevic.
Rob Perkins.
Bethany Hallam.
Manny.
Point of order, Judge. I want to object to Encore's participation in this meeting. He is serving as an illegal designee for the controller, once again in violation of state statute.
Your objection is noted. Passages to recovery.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sue Lynn Schiller. Last name is Shiller. Thanks very much. We have 48 residents as of today. We have 8 open beds. In November, we had 1 escape, 1 revocation, and 2 EMS transfers. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renewal.
Good evening, Adam Zach, ZAK, reporting for Renewal Incorporated. We are contracted with the ACJ to provide 180 alternative housing beds. We currently have 108 county work release males, 19 county males in drug and alcohol treatment. We have 11 work release females and 4 county females in drug and alcohol treatment. So total males, we have 127. Total females, we have 15. Total contracted beds filled, 142. Empty contracted beds, 38. For the month of November, we had 14 walk-offs. We had 10 program revocations, and we had 33 successful completions. Emergency medical technicians responded to our building 6 times in the past month for various illnesses and injuries. There were 0 deaths, suicide attempts, non-fatal overdoses, and use of force or self-harm incidents. Also, last week on Thanksgiving Day, there were 20 residents who participated in the annual Pittsburgh Turkey Trot Marathon, and it was another successful event due in part to their assistance.
Questions, Ms. Griffin?
Yep. So the number of occupied beds seems to be substantially higher than it has been in the last few months. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any reason for that? Or is that something has changed, or is that just coincidence, or why do you think that is?
I don't know, but we had 38 empty beds that they could be filled.
So you can accept more
I'm going to give a report on that issue. Just FYI. Anybody else have questions? Bethany?
I just have one question. Do you guys keep track? I really appreciate the numbers of the math with the beds. That makes it so much easier. I'm usually sitting here like having to do that myself. So thank you for that information this month. Do you guys keep track of fire drills? Like how many times? Like whether it's, fire alarms. You know, like I know we had a problem in the past with people pulling the fire alarm, and there was a lot of fire.
Yeah, so
fire
some
drill still. Yeah.
We have fire drills and fire alarms.
Yeah.
So we could certainly keep track of those numbers.
Yeah, if you could just let us know. I know I've been seeing a lot happening. I'm just wondering when I see the emergency vehicles outside, like, is it something's going on, or is it because we still have that fire alarm pulling problem?
Both. We do the drills and, people pulling the fire alarm.
Okay, yeah, that would just be helpful. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I know Manny has something.
I don't have a question, but more so just informing the board and the public that since the last JOB, I met twice with the renewal, just addressing some concerns that we've heard from some of the residents over the past few months. So I just want to thank you for being open and transparent, meeting with us, talk to Scott and Elena, and our goal, or even my personal goal, is to make sure that the same way that we've developed a good relationship with the jail, we do the same thing with renewal, with the understanding that folks who are in the renewal are also still incarcerated. So just thank you for being willing to meet with me, and look forward to continued collaboration.
We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Electronic monitoring.
Evening, Board. Steve Aswine for the Probation Office. So for this reporting period, we had 555 individuals that were in the program. 76 completed successfully, and 6 were removed for violations. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 3, 2025?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business, updates from Incarceree Welfare Committee. Any updates?
Just, we've been talking a lot about this jail notification policy to notify pertinent individuals, including the Jail Oversight Board, when someone is sent to the hospital for an unplanned hospital visit. And so we are coordinating right now with the warden and the jail administration schedule and this committee. And we have a draft proposal that we're going to start workshopping and get into a final state with. Hopefully the goal is at the January meeting, we will vote on it, but we have a lot of work to do with a lot of different folks in the meantime. But I just wanted to provide that update that it is coming hopefully next month, and wanted to ask if we know when the January meeting is going to be.
Well, we need to change the January meeting.
Okay.
Encore has told me at least 3 times. Thank you, Encore. Do you guys want to pick the date right now?
Can we do just the next Thursday? The first
That's okay
non-holiday
with me.
Thursday of the month?
Is everybody good with that? I don't even know what date that is off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's the 8th.
January 8th?
Does anybody have a problem with that?
Yeah, I do have a meeting, but I can change it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the 8th at 4.
All right, so January
Thank you,
8th
Judge.
will be the January meeting, 4 o'clock, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. Employee welfare. I'd like to report that we had a meeting with the warden about employee welfare, and the warden will get more, give you more details in his report, but the jail is working to make a room for employees to go to so that they can talk to their family, okay, during breaks, and they're actively working on that, and I think it probably will be started early next year. Yes. And they're doing a whole lot of other things for employee welfare. I don't want to steal the warden's thunder, but they're starting a whole staff wellness program. They're going to convert, the plan is to convert an open pod into a gymnasium for the employees. And they are going to start a verbal de-escalation training. And I'll stop stealing your thunder. But a lot of good progress.
Want me to comment on that now, Your Honor, or wait?
It's up to, you want to? Go ahead.
Sure. Just to echo what you said, obviously, we have been talking for several months about the corrections officers mostly who are working 16 hours a day, several days a week. And the concerns that they've had are that they can never really connect with their family members or loved ones throughout that time because obviously we don't provide cell phones inside the facility. So we've been looking at maybe possibly allowing some dispensation for that, allowing them to come on their breaks to a room in an area that's not where housing is and connect with their loved ones during their breaks. That would be, they could use a phone that we provide, use a computer we provide, or use their cell phone that would never make it inside the secure facility, but it would be in an area that they could go check in with their families during their breaks. So we're working on that. As you mentioned, we are looking, since we have several housing units that are closed, we're looking at converting one to a fitness center, which would be a legitimate fitness center that all the staff in the facility could use. That's a work in progress. We're talking to the different unions down there. We're talking to the Employees Association about participating in that. And we're looking forward to just a lot more discussion about staff wellness in 2026, including Deputy Clark and I recently had a meeting with Dr. Angela Hawken out of Washington, D.C., who focuses on these things. I've worked with her for several years in my previous positions, and she has a lot of great information. She comes to us from Johns Hopkins. She focuses on staff wellness, and she's coming up for a visit soon to take a look at the ACJ. And her organization provides all that funding. It won't be coming from us. And we're looking forward to working with her and other partners about working towards better staff wellness for everyone in the facility in 2026. Thank you.
This isn't exactly part of my committee report, but I thought that I would give an update to the JOB, the same update that I gave to County Council as part of our budget presentation about reducing the jail population, because it's a huge issue, and I hear from people about it all the time. So I want to say that last month, the jail population was 1,848. We've gotten it down to 1,756 this month. There were 642 detainers last month. There's 571 detainers this month. So there's some actual statistical improvements, but what is the court doing and what has the court done? We want to decrease the length of detainer holds. So we intend to schedule detainer hearings going forward on the same day as a sentencing on a new offense, because right now, a person could be sentenced on the new offense and have to wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long to come in for their detainer hearing. So we're going to get them scheduled on the same date, same time, so they can all be done together. We're also working on adding a second motions judge or a second motions another session, like an afternoon session, to expedite the handling of bond modification motions. I don't know if you all know this, but our pretrial services department already reviews every single bond that is set by a magisterial district judge. And if pretrial services thinks it's too high, they file a motion themselves in front of the motions judge at the Court of Common Pleas to get that bond modified. So we're going to speed that process up. You probably do not know, but we have on-call judges in the criminal division 24/7. Anytime there's a question about a detainer or an arrest, and that particular judge is now authorized to be contacted by Allegheny County Jail Administration for any requests to release a medically compromised inmate. We also just started a competency court. There's a lot of backlog for individuals who there's a petition to have them evaluated for, are they competent to stand trial? This takes a lot of time because it goes to their individual judge, whoever that may be. We now have one judge handling all of the competency hearings. It's Judge Lazara. She also does mental health court. She is very versed on this subject and really is an expert on it. And basically, it's a fast track. It's an expedited process to get the competency hearing done and then either get the person into mental health court, get them on the waiting list for Torrance if they need treatment because they're not competent, or get them into the mobile competency restoration unit, which I believe you all know about. You've heard about that. And that's, instead of making people sit in jail and wait to get into Torrance, they can get restoration in their own community and get out of jail and get mental health treatment to become restored. And since that program has begun, I am told that the waiting list to get into Torrance has been cut in half. Wow. Okay? All right, also, just last month, we started pre-arraignment diversion, and that offers treatment options for magisterial district judges when they're setting original bond at a preliminary arraignment to divert the person from jail to mental health treatment, drug and alcohol treatment, whatever the case may be, whatever they need. We also worked with the jail, you've heard about this, to devise a system where the inmates can review their discovery in an expedited fashion, which I believe has been very, very successful. That was another cause for delay. If a defendant's in jail, and now there's volumes of discovery that has to be reviewed by the district attorney's office, by the defense bar, by the client, because there's basically a camera on every corner, okay? There's dash cam, there's video cam, there's cell phone dumps. So there's so much discovery that has to be reviewed that there was a huge waiting line in jail for people to be able to watch their discovery because they'd have to wait their turn to get a laptop. Well, now they get a flash drive, and the jail has set up discovery stations, basically, and they can go look at their discovery any old time with their flash drive. So that's really saved a lot of time in getting the defendants to review their discovery. We also have talked to the warden about enacting a policy where other counties are charged a per diem rate when they don't pick up their inmates in a timely fashion. I know the warden's working on that. By way of example, I was sitting in Veterans Court in November, and I had a veteran. I have the paper here, I can never find what I need. But I had a veteran that I had released to alternative housing for treatment. I'm going to make up this date because it was exactly 2 months. So let's say I released him on August 5th, okay? He was not taken to alternative housing because Westmoreland County had a hold on him. Westmoreland County let him sit in our jail on our dime for 2 months before they picked him up, took him to Westmoreland County. He pled or was sentenced, whatever happened, and his detainer was lifted. He came back down here, and then he went to alternative housing. But that's 2 months that our county paid for a Westmoreland hold, which is, and I think it's pretty prevalent. If you look at the jail report this month, you will see that 359 people in jail this month had a hold from an external jurisdiction. So that's a problem that I think we could fix. And that's it. Yes, sure.
Okay. I have a couple questions. The first thing is, I love that idea about the out-of-county detainers. I think, or at least, I don't know if I said it out loud, but I thought about it at a last meeting because another county had announced in the news that they just weren't going to hold people.
Westmoreland.
It was Westmoreland
who
who did
had
it?
the audacity.
Which is funny,
to
right?
leave their person here for 2 months. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so they announced that I think it was like 48 or 72 hours was
They're
the
leaving,
maximum.
yes.
They will just let them out.
Yes.
And I would really love to consider that idea. And if not, we should make it like an astronomical per diem, like $10,000 per day. I'm serious though, because
Well,
that's the only way to incentivize them to actually do it. And they're either going to get sick of paying, or they're going to drop the detainer, or they're going to come and pick them up.
Yeah.
And so I really hope that it's not just a nominal fee, because I mean, even $1,000 a day is only a little bit extra for us covering housing a person for a day and feeding them and doing all that. So just wanted to say that I would love you to consider not holding out-of-county detainers past a certain amount of time.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
So with respect to that issue, I know a significant expense is medical care. So with the other, if they're just being held in these out-of-county detainers, are they responsible for paying for the medical care as well?
No, because they're
No.
still in our custody.
And sometimes they know there's a medical issue, so they don't come and get them. Is that correct?
That would be a good assumption.
Thank you. I mean, it's really horrendous. Sorry.
Yeah. No, really, I think that's a great idea. More power to you on that. The next thing is about the pre-arraignment diversion. I was just wondering if there are any numbers on that. I know a few months ago when I was at the jail and in intake, pre-arraignment diversion had been like flooded and they had moved out of the jail. And so I'm just wondering, one, have they returned? If they haven't, what's the impact on them not having returned? And third, do we have any numbers on exactly how many people have been diverted because of the pre-arraignment
They
diversion?
returned 2 weeks ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
It was pretrial services that had left the jail. Pre-arraignment diversion, that staff works for the jail, so they remained in place.
okay, it was the pretrial team that was working with them.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
So pretrial services is back in the jail. Pre-arraignment diversion, the actual reporting to the magisterial courts just began this month, so we don't have outcomes yet, but of course we'll be looking at those as time goes on and we're able to see the impact that has.
Great, thank you. And Judge, big fan of all these things that you have been working on to
Well,
lower the
thank
jail
you.
population, truly. I mean, it's not always that we get to do things that actually have an impact, and you're doing things that actually have an impact, so I really do appreciate that. I appreciated it when you announced it at the council meeting, but I appreciate you outlining it again, because I was about to hit up Joe for a typed list, but now I got it, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I just want to echo Councilwoman Hallam's gratitude. You know, when I delivered my budget remarks, we emphasized that we had incurred $9 million in unplanned expenses because of an increased population in the jail. So I appreciate you taking that seriously and really thinking about how you can deploy certain things within the courts that can help be more, help move things along and ensure that our justice system is more efficient. And thank you to County Council for passing the budget this past week.
Okay, yes,
One
sorry.
question or maybe a suggestion, as far as the pre-arraignment diversion program, I understand we're still working out the details, but. Microphone. Oops.
It's on, I just put your
I leaned back, sorry. So as far as the pre-arraignment diversion program, will people who are detained on probation detainers also get plans?
Well, we already do that. I mean, if you have somebody on a detainer, you get contacted by probation with a recommendation. Let this person go to inpatient drug and alcohol treatment, et cetera. So that's already being done.
Okay. So the pre-arraignment diversion just focus on new arrests
Yes,
and bail? Okay.
yes.
President, Judge, if I may.
Yes.
One question on the potential training that might be required for magisterial district judges in order to both be able to issue spot, right, and then screen effectively. Could you speak a little bit about what kinds of training that might be conducted in the coming months?
Well, they get training every year
Sure.
on every topic imaginable. Do I have the curriculum? No, so I'm sorry.
No, of
But
course.
they go for a week every year, plus we have a training in December every year. And pretrial services is there at the preliminary arraignment, and they get a report from pretrial services, which they can also read.
Okay.
So, if it's recommended, they rely, I presume, on pretrial services expertise.
Thank you.
To a certain extent, it's still
Sure.
in their discretion.
Sure.
Okay.
Healthcare subcommittee.
I'm sorry?
Healthcare.
Yes, healthcare, Health Services Advisory Committee, Ms. Griffin.
Yep. I wanted to report just briefly about our visit to the jail for a meal and to see the areas where food is prepared, to go upstairs to the pods. I'm not going to do a deep dive because I want to wait until we can have Rocco Panucci, who's the Director of Food Services with Trinity, here to answer any questions that there might be. I just haven't had a chance to get that all arranged. But just very briefly, we went to the jail on November 12th, myself, NCAR, 2 representatives from the Pittsburgh Interfaith Impact Network, Rocco and Mike Phillips from Trinity, and Warden Wingard and Deputy Warden Clark joined us later when we were having lunch. We saw the storage areas where food and other supplies are kept. We saw the regular meal prep area, the special meal prep area, and the cleanup areas at the jail. We had a meal after viewing these facilities. I checked the menu for the day, and we were served the regular menu that was served for the day. In fact, we saw those meals being prepared, and we ate those same meals. Just FYI, it was 2 chicken hot dogs, beans, pasta salad, 2 slices of bread, and a piece of cake, and mustard. So we also asked our guests to be served some of the alternative meals. So we had a vegetarian meal served and a gluten-free meal served. So we saw a variety of the types of foods that are served. So some of the issues that we raised, just briefly, are some of the same issues that I think are faced by other parts of the jail. So things like the facilities problems. That day when we were visiting, there was a broken water pipe, something, and so the food services didn't have hot water to use. So what that meant was, because they didn't have hot water to clean the trays after meals, they had to use styrofoam trays in order to deliver the meals. And they're not as sturdy, and they were a little floppy, so it just sort of made the whole process a little bit more difficult and not as orderly as it might regularly be. So that was an issue. Also staffing, they face the same challenges with getting people to staff the food prep area. And that was pretty much the main points. Again, we'll have Rocco come. He did do a survey of residents to talk about some of the foods that they would like to see. And I know that we continue to have complaints about meals. There was one complaint in a report that Councilmember Hallam recently shared with the Jail Oversight Board. So we'll just continue to monitor those and have Rocco here at a future meeting to answer those questions directly. So,
Okay, Ms.
was
Griffin.
Yeah.
The $1 million question. How was the food?
So I was prepared for the worst. I mean, I was really kind of steeling myself. It wasn't bad. So the hot dogs were tasty. I found the beans to be tasty. That is just my experience. I don't, everyone has different tastes. It wasn't a home-cooked Sunday meal, but it was edible. There was a lot of it. I understand that the residents have to be provided with meals totaling at least 3,000 calories today. I grew up in a household where I had to finish my entire plate before I got up from the table, and I could not have finished that meal. I thought it was plenty. So, but yeah, it was tasty. I like the hot dogs.
Thank you. Mr. Perkins?
All right, also with respect to the healthcare subcommittee, we had our third quarterly meeting, and I think that, again, the goal of continuous improvement, we're there. We have lots to be proud of. And we talked to the jail about potentially in February, kind of doing a year in review to talk about all the things that we have achieved. I'll go through some of the agenda items. So we talked about one of the issues is dealing with people who come into the jail through intake. It's the most dangerous place medically in the jail, and improvements we've made as far as dealing with people who are experiencing withdrawal or overdose and things of that nature, and very positive progress. We have an expert in addiction medicine. Maybe one other jail in the entire state has that. Trained staff on how to identify withdrawal symptoms, how to, it requires a specialized skill to deal with people who come in sometimes very sick, particularly with adulterants and the drug supply. So we heard about progress in that realm. We talked about ideas to, in the future, some technology improvements. There was the discussion of a wearable that can use to check people's pulses that has been used in some inpatient rehab programs. Gateway is talking about implementing something like that, and Deputy Warden Martin can talk about any more details. The idea of a scanner used to make sure we use that effectively to identify people who may secret drugs whenever they come into the facility. Talked about telehealth. I think that's an area where we've made progress, but we're not quite there. There's a lot of issues with, my understanding is IT issues and contracts and things of that nature, but with the goal of improving medical care and reducing the strain on the staff, that is, kill two birds with one stone there, that we do. I think we kind of, based on the warden's description, it's probably not as huge an issue as we thought it was, but it's still the opportunity of, if someone can do a telehealth appointment just as easily as going out to a hospital, then that gets them a visit sooner with their physician. It also reduces the strain on the staff that we need to send 3-4 people out for 6 hours for a medical visit, particularly routine visits. We talked about mental health as well. This is in the past we've been focused on substance use, physical health issues. This is the first meeting where we talked about some mental health treatment and things of that nature. And we talked about whenever we started on this board, we had 0 therapists in the jail, and now we have 8 or 9. And it seems like we were doing pretty well as far as staffing the mental health care team, which is great. We talked about the Howard settlement, which we haven't discussed a lot in this setting, but I read the most recent monitor's report to talk about progress, and it was overwhelmingly positive. There are things we need to improve. There were discussions about confidentiality concerns and how some of the treatment visits are conducted, but again, there was a lot of positive, and the tone was certainly overall positive. We also talked about the mobile competency restoration project. That was one of the most, in my humble opinion, unfair results in the jail. Whenever you're sitting in jail and you have to wait a year to go to Torrance or however long, and that increases the jail population, people decompensate. There's no reason for it. It has to do with a lot of issues outside of our control, but we are addressing that. I think we can do more. Perhaps we can figure out ways to maybe, I think right now that only 10% of people who are identified for a potential competency hold actually are incompetent, so maybe there's ways to train people to not refer everybody to the behavior clinic that doesn't need it, and that could also lessen jail stays as well. But again, lots of positive progress. I know that the warden thinks about continuous improvement. Every day, how can we be better? And I think he's proving under his leadership that's happening. Not just him, but his entire team. So I appreciate the willingness of the jail to work with the subcommittee. Again, the one thing I'd also add is that having external professionals like Dr. Julie Diallo, Lauren Stoner is also on the subcommittee. I think they really add a lot of value to say, like, hey, this is what we're doing at Gateway Rehab, where Dr. Diallo is the medical director there, kind of learn and contrast different systems and complement one another. Also somebody that has more medical expertise than this jail, because none of us are physicians or nurses. I just think that's been really positive, and one specific, I think, advantage of that was that through Dr. Diallo's connections, and again, Dr. Demko and the entire medical team, there was an issue in the past where we thought we could improve communications with the outside hospitals, and the report is that we went from an issue where we really had very far to go to where now everybody seems to say, like, things are really working, things are improving, and better communication improves patient care. So that was one particular example that resonated with me of real improvement in a way of the subcommittee working with the jail to improve things. So
I applaud the jail administration. I really do. Great report, thank you. Lockdown and use of force subcommittee, any report?
No update.
Okay. No new business? Okay, warden's report.
Good afternoon. We obviously thank everyone for those positive comments. Unfortunately, as everyone knows, we had a death on a housing unit on November 10th. About 10 o'clock in the morning, this event happened. We did meet with the Jail Oversight Board, I think 4 days after that, to brief you all on that. So I won't go into great details because this matter is under investigation, criminal investigation, and the ME's office is obviously, we're waiting on their report. But I just want to comment that about a minute after the corrections officer realized there was an issue, the corrections officer and a nurse, again, within a minute of understanding that this individual was under distress, started performing life-saving measures, and then within a few minutes from that time, 11 other staff in the facility, including a doctor, including deputies, including several nurses, physician's assistants, and corrections officers performed life-saving measures as long as they could, and then the paramedics from outside came to the facility. I'm real proud of the response of that team. Obviously, it's not the outcome we wanted, and we're going to continue to review that whole entire matter, and we'll report to the board when we know more. This week we had every 2 years the Department of Corrections comes into every county facility, and they do what they call a Title 37 review. It's a one-day audit. It went very well. 3 auditors came in, had a lot of positive comments at the end of the day. Many comments stood out. There's issues we're going to resolve, some inventory issues, some key control and tool control issues, but for the most part, they had very positive comments about just the overall feel of the facility compared to when they were there in 2023, I believe it was. They talked about the implementation of unit managers, and they spoke several times about the corrections officers that they talked to on the pods. They went to every pod in the facility. They were there all day into the evening, and they talked a lot about the corrections officers on the pods and how knowledgeable they were and how forthcoming they were and their positive attitudes. And that was really great for the administration to hear at the end of the day. We will get a full report from them in writing, and we will share it with the board, as I'm sure you have the one from 2 years ago. On 11/21, we had 19 cadets graduate. On that day, we also honored 7 sergeants that we promoted in the facility. We did it in conjunction. I believe that's the first time that we did that. We were happy that the county manager came down and spoke at that graduation. We had more family members from our cadets that we've ever had at one of those graduations. The room was full, so we're gonna have to figure out either a bigger room or more chairs next time. And then we have 14 cadets starting in 2 weeks, and that will be the last class for 2025, and then we'll move into more classes in 2026. Recruitment is going well. You may have seen some of the billboards in the county. You may see some of the kiosks in the malls. Our corrections officers, our nurses, our captains, and other folks in the facility have volunteered to be part of our marketing campaign. It's on the different radio stations in town. It's in radio stations all across Western PA about how to apply for a job with the county and specifically the jail. I reported to you last night about some temperature issues on a few pods. We made notification to our facilities maintenance personnel last night about that. They responded with some engineers. I went up there this morning with Deputy Clark, and along with the unit managers, we personally took the temperatures, and they're in the low 70s in the cells and in the housing units. And we did talk to facilities today about continuing to address that. They assured us that today they brought the temperatures up in the entire building, which takes a little while for that building to catch up with that adjustment. But hopefully, you won't be hearing many issues about heating from us the rest of the winter, hopefully. We've talked all year about unit managers. We want to know that they are settling in. We have 8 of them now. We appreciate the support from county leadership to get them on board. They're really starting to work on a lot of incentives in the facility for the incarcerated folks. And we're happy to report that over the next few months, I think you're going to be hearing about the different incentives that are going to be happening for the incarcerated people on the different levels that were not in place before. And I know for sure that on one level, they're starting those soon, and we're going to send an invite to all of you to come down and watch some of the things they're going to be doing. In 2020, I'm guessing for COVID, the gymnasiums on the units were closed, most likely for COVID. We're going to get back into using those gymnasiums for some things, starting with incentives on those levels. So that's all I have right now. I'll turn it over to Deputy Martin. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. So yesterday, myself and some of the other healthcare leadership went and visited CCAC, Dean of Nursing, and some of the other directors from the different campuses. This was a goal to establish a partnership to get some clinical rotations into the jail with us. The meeting went very well. It was lovely to talk to them, explain what correctional medicine is. They had no idea. And it was nice to hear about like what their program offers and what they need from us to build that partnership. So we are definitely looking forward to helping the students finish out their nursing education, learn about our population, and learning what the advantages of coming to being an Allegheny County employee is. So that was really good news. We are meeting again with them tomorrow to kind of learn more about their program with their other partners for clinical rotations. Lastly, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the healthcare staff. That includes our physical health teams, mental health, substance use, public health, all the providers, the support staff, and other specialties that come in to the building on a daily basis. I wanted to acknowledge that this has been a successful completion of a very challenging year. This team and department has grown significantly in the services that we provide, the staffing, and the patient population. After personally being here a number of years and have worked in many different positions, including frontline staffing, up to my current role, I can say that the population we are receiving daily has become more medically complex and vulnerable. So I want to say thank you to the staff that continue to show up daily and provide a high-quality patient care. Many of our patients have not seen a healthcare professional in many years. They arrive at our door struggling with both acute and chronic illnesses, and this team steps up to meet the challenge again and again, despite all the challenges that our environment provides. So again, thank you for all that you do. That's all I got. Connie?
Good afternoon. Just wanted to, as a reminder, to remind everyone that the Foundation of Hope continues to accept book donations for the jail. You can go on their website to arrange for a donation. In addition to softback books, we have also started to accept hardback books, so we will accept both. On November 19th and 20th, Hope graduation for male and females occurred with a total of 40 graduates from that program, so congratulations to them. Yesterday, the Foundation of Hope and jail staff put together holiday care packages for the incarcerated population. The care packages are scheduled for delivery on December 10th. Population management, thank you, Your Honor, for speaking a bit to the court's efforts and for the court's support of the jail's efforts. On November 17th, stakeholders from the jail, courts, public defender's office, probation, and DHS met with officials from Philadelphia County who provided information on how court cases have been streamlined in Philadelphia County, which has led to a reduction in jail population. Court administration ultimately will have to make determinations as to if and how these similar strategies can be enacted in Allegheny County. Population management discussions between the jail, court administration, and the public defender's office remain ongoing. We are confident that our partners in the court and public defender's office will help to support efforts to reduce the jail's population. The judge also mentioned out-of-county holds, particularly those from Westmoreland County. This month, we have started daily video hearings with Westmoreland County, so we're hoping that that will help alleviate some of these holds, at least from that county, and then we're going to try to branch out from there if this proves to be successful. For reentry services, on November 19th, the jail hosted a reentry fair for employees and reentry contractors. It was an opportunity for the new reentry providers to speak about the programs that they offer for people inside and outside of the jail. It allowed providers, unit managers, caseworkers, and other jail staff an opportunity to network with each other and in order to better support the population. Today, Casa San Jose met with caseworkers and unit management teams to explain the services that they offer. We appreciate their continued partnership and look forward to expanding the referrals that get made to that organization for our population. For educational services, on November 13th, the jail hosted a veteran celebration and contact visits in honor of Veterans Day. Community providers of veteran services such as the VA, Pittsburgh Hires Veterans, Semper Fi Mission, and Veterans Place presented information about veteran services to incarcerated veterans. We're grateful to Trinity Food Services, who graciously donated fruit, muffins, donuts, coffee, and cold beverages that were very much enjoyed by the incarcerated population. Foundation of Hope also generously donated care packages for each veteran. On November 20th, participants in the Duquesne University Inside Out class who have been studying Hamlet this semester had the opportunity to perform for jail employees. Participants memorized lines and interpreted the play through performance, which those in attendance very much enjoyed. That concludes our report. Thank you.
Questions? Encore.
2 questions. I don't know who may be able to answer this. First question, given some of the good sort of population measures that are taking place right now, one question that I had revolved around how kids are being addressed, kids that are detained at ACJ, how they're being addressed in the larger scheme of those things. I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that first.
The juvenile population in the facility, for the first 6 months that they're there, they have an interest of justice hearing every month where their case is reviewed by a judge. The jail provides a report to that judge on how that juvenile's adjustment has been since they've been in the facility, and then ultimately the judge makes a determination as to whether or not they're going to remain in the jail.
I appreciate that. I think that information is useful for the public as well as us. Second question, to the extent that you can comment on this, Deputy Warden, any updates on the telecoms contracts?
Still in negotiations.
Okay.
Nothing that we can publicly speak to at this point.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Anybody? Mr. Perkins?
Do you think we'll know about the contract before January?
I don't think we'll know before January, no.
Because that may impact the welfare fund.
Or no impact since there's no update.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple. My first one is, my first ones are about one of the online comments that was submitted. I don't know if do you guys get these? Do you guys get a copy of the online comments? Okay, so the one that's about incarcerated, it says, it's been reported that incarcerated parents at ACJ are being denied visits with their children unless they can provide a birth certificate listing the incarcerated parent's name, even when a family court order authorizes visitation. This deviates from ACJ's posted policy, which requires proof of guardianship from the adult accompanying the child, not the incarcerated parent. And they're basically just asking that, why the difference between the two policies.
I I reviewed that as well, and I'm not familiar with any scenario where someone was turned away. So if there's more information that we can obtain to further investigate that, we do, according to the policy, which there has been no change to, require some proof of guardianship and generally a birth certificate for anyone under the age of 18 that's coming into the jail. So if there are more details, we'd like to look into that, but there's been no change.
So the policy, so even if I'm guessing that this says that this is talking about there's a family court order that allows the incarcerated person to see their child. So are you saying if there's a kid who can't find anybody to come in and do it, I can't just take that kid in to see their parent?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, okay, I'm asking then. So you're saying they need proof of guardianship for the incarcerated person, not the person bringing the visitor?
Right, and the birth certificate is what whoever the loved one is that's bringing in the child brings the birth certificate or a copy of, or they send it to us in advance, particularly these court-ordered visitations. Generally, we get those through CYF well in advance of the visit.
Okay, but if there is a court order that you have, do they still need to provide a birth certificate?
Yes.
Why is that if there's a court order allowing
We
visitation?
just require birth certificates for all minors that come into the facility. If they don't have a birth certificate, we've made exceptions. We don't turn people away for not having it. Those are reviewed individually. That's why I'm not aware of anyone that was turned away.
Okay, I'll reach out to the person that submitted the comment. Thank you for that.
If I may,
No,
perhaps maybe the
thank you,
chair-
though. My next question is about the mental health reports that we got from Deputy Warden Martin. We used to get information every month. It wasn't in our written report. It was just given verbally about like how many people are waiting to be seen for sick calls and what's the longest wait time. Same thing for mental health sick calls, mental health specialists and psychiatrists. And I was just wondering if you guys still compile that information, and I didn't know why it stopped being provided.
You guys should get it. Josie sends everything up to you guys.
But I mean, in the meeting, like, can you present that publicly in the meeting? Because the public doesn't have access to the same information that we get sent to us for this meeting. Like, if you could just read numbers.
You want the whole report?
Specifically those things. If you want to read the whole thing, sure. The next two things were going to be how many people are on tier 4, how many people are on tier 5, and then I really appreciated the Torrance information in the statistics report, but then how long, I know it was cut in half, but like what is the longest wait that someone's in Torrance for now?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
Do you want to know?
Yeah, sure, please. Thank you.
So for Torrance, 3 patients were admitted and transferred, 12 were committed. 3 had their commitment rescinded, 30 are on the wait list with the longest wait time since September 25. 0 patients were on tier 5 this past month, 24 were on tier 4. The mobile competency team, they are currently serving 87 patients, 21 being in the community and 66 being in the jail. They did have 2 of their patients commitments rescinded as well.
Okay.
For sick call, for the medical, this report is as of today. There's 45 on the list, longest waiting 2 days. For mental health, 7 is on the list, longest waiting 1 day. Dental, there's 8 on the list with the longest waiting 1 day. Psychiatrist, 348, longest waiting 14 days.
Thank you so much. My next question is, I know it was brought up about the Discovery little jump drive thing in the viewing area, which I was able to see on one of the pods during one of my recent inspections. I was just wondering if we could walk through, like, what is the actual process? Is it like one single room with one single person who can go in at a time? Is there a maximum amount of time that a person can be viewing their Discovery? Because if it's what Judge Ivashevic says it is, which I believe you, there's like mountains of information. And so I'm just wondering, like, could I sit in there for 10 hours and view my Discovery?
There are sign-up sheets on each one of the housing units. There is one machine per unit. I think we have a couple that have 2 in it in the heavier areas, like level 4 and level 3, but they can sign up for it. There's open slots every single day.
Okay. And is there a maximum, like, how long is the slot?
I think they're an hour long.
An hour-long
I can
slot.
verify, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're an hour long.
But can you sign up for multiple slots a
Yes,
day?
yes.
Okay, and-
Yeah,
and
you
there's
can
no
go-
limit?
You can go
There's no
as
waiting
many times as you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then how, like, what times of the day? Is it only during, like, are you picking between looking at your discovery or the little bit of rec time you get? Like, what?
I think it's all day. I got to verify that. I think it starts early in the morning, probably around 8 o'clock, and it goes all the way to 8 o'clock at night or so.
Okay.
I'll verify that.
Is that also true for people who are like on DHU, like on 8E, and are locked down most of the day? Is the same thing true for them? Do they have the same level of access?
I have to check on that.
Okay, yeah, I'd just really like to know that. Just want to make sure that everybody is able to use it. And then I had one more question. No. Oh, yeah, last question is, I saw a lot of pictures from the graduation and the promotions for the sergeants, and I was just wondering, like in a world where it seems we will be forever short corrections officers, what is the, like, what responsibilities, what roles, like what enables us to, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Like, what are sergeants? Why do we want more sergeants when we don't have enough COs?
Leadership development, to have someone supervise the corrections officers that we do have. I mean, those were positions that were created through attrition. Those were positions that we had because people retired. We did not promote people right after people left. We waited a while, and that's why we promoted 7 at the same time. But those sergeants are your first line supervisors in that facility. I consider them almost like lieutenants that facility used to have years ago that I'm familiar with, meaning they're the first line managers. They do all the scheduling of the corrections officers. They do all the overtime calling of the corrections officers' schedules. They work in that building 24 hours a day to make sure that the corrections officers are placed in the places they're supposed to be and handle all their scheduling. And then hopefully, as they progress through their careers, they become the next captains in the facility or the next unit managers in the facility, which some of them have already become recently.
Okay, but once they're a sergeant, they're no longer able, they won't work a pod anymore. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay.
They'll work a level. They work for the unit manager on an entire level, which would be 6 pods in most cases.
Okay, and so we don't have any additional sergeant positions now than we had a few years ago? You're just filling?
No, I believe it's the same complement we've had for a long time.
Okay, awesome. And then I forgot I do have one last question. Can you just describe any kind of type of preparation that the jail does ahead of an audit, whether it's this Title 37 review, which I'm really excited to get a copy of for the first time ever, or like the NCCHC audits? Is there a special preparation that you do to get the facility or anything?
There is, but it starts months ago. So months ago, they asked for documentation. So there's only 3 auditors that come for an entire day to inspect a facility that large. Obviously, most of the things they reviewed were reviewed weeks in advance. Major Stephanie Frank, she headed up that for us, did a great job working with them. They just don't show up and say, show us all your documentation. That's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, proving that we're doing what we say we're doing, type documentation. And then they come in, they brief with us, tell us where they want to go, and then we give them escorts. In this case, it was captains and unit managers, and they go out to the different levels. They break up, go out to the different levels. I mean, obviously, preparation for any inspection is going to be preparing your documentation, cleanliness, preparing for what we may think they're coming to look at. Things we're trying to do every day, especially now with our unit managers in place, trying to be always inspection ready for when people like you come.
Yes, I try to come as often as possible. And then my last thing is not a question, it's just a comment. I just wanted to say when I came down, a little over a week ago to review the footage from the medical emergency that happened on November 12th, I just want to say Deputy Warden Martin and Dr. Demko were very helpful in providing me information that I needed and like reviewing minute by minute just everything that happened that led up to this woman's medical emergency and her being sent to the hospital. So I just wanted to shout out them, and especially the staff on 5B, which was the infirmary where I went. The folks that were working there at the time were also just welcoming to me. I mean, it's a total shift from years past, so I just want to make sure I shout that out when it happens. And then, I finally finished typing out my report and submitted it, so I plan to get together with your team about just some things that I saw on when I went to see the girls and the dogs, which did jump on me, leave a paw print on my leg.
Oh my God. Encore, do you want to make?
Anyways,
She's done.
thank you. I'll talk about that later. Thank you.
The Controller's Office supplies the redacted copies of the online submitted comments, and if you feel comfortable, Deputy Warden, reaching out to Ms. Crippen. Ms. Crippen has submitted multiple comments in the past, and if I can note some good ideas therein, because she referenced in her recent comment about the visitation policy, and with an acknowledgement that the jail has committed quite a bit of change to that process, it might be useful to just reach out to her directly, and I'm happy to supply, again, if you feel comfortable, happy to supply her contact information.
Absolutely, just need the contact. Thank you.
Sure.
Manny, you have any questions?
Yeah, I just have a few questions. Thank you for all of the updates. Appreciate all of the information, that you provide beyond this meeting and emails as well. So I have a question about the Discharge and Release Center. Of course, it's been improved drastically over the years. We table outside the jail. We've seen quite a few folks get out since the last JOB meeting. I don't know, how many would you say? 50, 60?
At least.
At least. Most of them, we have to do like minimal aid, you know what I mean? But there were 2 people who lived outside of Allegheny County that we had to get Greyhound tickets for. Now, I know this is something that we talked about before, and I know the Discharge and Release Center usually addresses that. I'm wondering why folks are still falling through the cracks, whether or not it's a breakdown in communication or people are just not aware that service is available. So I'm hoping you can walk me through that process for folks who have been given tickets and sent to other places, when they get extradited. I think the last person was from Philly and literally just got him a Greyhound ticket. So, explain to us or anybody that may be listening or even watching, the minutes on their tablet whenever it comes out, how can somebody request transportation assistance outside of the county?
So whenever they leave the jail, the last team they meet with is the discharge and release team. That team's going to get information from them on what their home address is. If it's outside of Allegheny County, because they're always assessing for transportation needs, they're going to ask them if they need transportation. They let them make a phone call to have someone come pick them up if they're local. And then they make sure that they have a bus ticket if they're going outside of the area or even within Allegheny County. So not sure what happened in those scenarios. That shouldn't happen. I know that we've had people who make a phone call, family says they're coming, family doesn't show up. Sometimes they come back in and get bus tickets. Don't know if that's what happened in these situations. If you have more details, I'd take it and take a look at it.
I got you. All right, so in the future then, say somebody gets released, 7:30, you know what I mean? They have to go outside of the county, whatever they didn't, communicate, whatever, there was a breakdown. Can we send them back in and say, hey, talk to the discharge and release
No,
folks?
because visits closes and so does discharge and release at 8. So if it's before 8 p.m., somebody from discharge and release will be there and can assist them. But if it's after that, then no one's going to be there.
But at 7:30 it would be cool?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to try it next time. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I guess I should ask. Last week, the door closed and was locked shortly before 8. And, usually that's not a problem that we address or talk about, except for there was an elderly couple who was trying to put some money on somebody's books using a kiosk, and they weren't able to. They were denied access, and it was before 8 p.m. And we offered, to point them in a direction on how to do it electronically. They said they didn't have the ability to do it. They had to do it in person, and the door was locked on them, and they wasn't sure why. Is there ever a scenario, or should that door be locked before 8 p.m.? And what is somebody's, recourse in that situation?
So no, the door should be open until 8 p.m. and that's something that we'll have to just check in with visits and see why that didn't occur that day. I don't know offhand. But if they come before 8 o'clock, they should be able to put money on someone's account.
I got you. Remember what day it was?
No, but I have a timestamp picture for you, so I will show you.
Yeah, we'll follow up on that. Thank you. Happy to hear that, recruitment is going well. I know you said 19 cadets just graduated. A few months ago, you talked about, in an effort to maintain retention, checking in with folks, as they're getting started to see how that's going. Are there any updates on that? Are those check-ins still happening regularly?
So, yes, the comments have been pretty much the same, meaning working a lot of overtime. The ones I've talked to, and I've talked to them verbally, and I've talked to them through emails, checking in on them, whether it's the new officers, whether it's the newly promoted sergeants. And the common theme among all of them is that they're cautiously optimistic about some of the changes they've seen, and they're kind of looking to see if they continue in 2026. One newer officer I talked to recently, quote, "It's the best job I've ever had because I was putting roofs on before this, and I'm happy to be here." Other ones say things like that, but they also say it's a lot of overtime. So that's why we're trying to make some of the decisions we're doing right now and take some of the steps we're doing to address that with regard to giving them an opportunity during those overtime shifts to connect with their loved ones and maybe do some other things during their breaks. We recognize that it's a difficult job. And it's not just the corrections officers, there's nurses that are in that building for long periods of time. So the provisions we're going to put in place aren't just for the officers, although that's the central focus. So I think that, as I mentioned earlier, as we move into 2026, if we stay focused on, among all the other things we're dealing with about staff wellness, and we bring some national experts in to help us with that, I think we can make some inroads and some progress. But to answer your question specifically, I hear a little bit everything from those folks. I think the ones who just graduated were very appreciative of the ceremony, and the fact that how many of their family members showed up spoke volumes. And then the sergeants also getting recognized was big. But we have work to do with regard to the overtime and getting them to a point where if they're working overtime, it's by choice and not always because they're forced.
I got you. I do have to say I did put roofs on for a while. It's not that bad. I'm just joking. No. Anyways, I do appreciate some of the changes that you've made, especially with the unit managers. We ran into one of them. I think it was the person who runs 4, and just have very, positive disposition. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. Oh, yeah. So I appreciate that. All right, I do have one more question. I appreciate you sending us information about the, temperature complaints. And I do know, I was about to say from experience, but I don't think that was funny. But I do know that the corner cells are the coldest. Are folks still being held there?
Talked to some of those gentlemen today. So where we're at now with the temperatures, they want to stay in those cells. We're allowing that. Just talked to one gentleman today. I said, if you're going to stay in here, we're going to have you sign something saying that you want to stay in here. But we are offering people the opportunity to move out of those corner cells as the temperatures continue to go down. We did that last year. And we also issued extra blankets last year, which we've already done this year. Walking around level 3 today. Talked to several gentlemen who said they have those extra blankets. And like I said, the temps were reading around 70 to 72 today when I was in there.
I got you. In the future, upon request, if somebody is in a corner cell, do they have the ability to be moved?
If they want to move, we'll absolutely move them. Yes, we did that last winter. In fact, last winter at one point, all the corner cells were cleared out.
Right. Yeah.
When we got really cold, we cleared them all out.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, public comment, Malakia Contrace.
Good evening. I want to first go back to the original time I came in here talking about the issue with attorney-client privilege, defense team overall privilege, and being in the same room with other clients and their attorneys is not privileged. And thankfully, I heard some things that there are some closed housing units, and we were trying to get rid of this discovery backlog. That would be handled quite nicely with some space in those units to provide privileged, personal, private conversations between defense teams and their clients. This is a jail, which is a cesspool for the opportunity of jailhouse snitching. By listening to other people's cases and hearing that, it further exacerbates that opportunity, and snitching doesn't have to be true, as we all know. So it's imperative. I am now visiting clients in the evening hours or on the weekends because I don't want to be in a room with other people when discussing very serious issues. Most of the people I am repping have serious homicide to capital. That information does not need to go beyond the scope of your representation. And to that end, the public defender office that you all are working with to try to minimize the amount of folks in the ACJ, we need to understand that's not the only court-appointed folks that represent indigent folks. I'm appointed to multiple indigent clients, and so maybe that list needs to go beyond just the public defender office, because we don't have enough public defenders to represent the amount of folks that are being detained in Allegheny County and across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Court appointments are also for indigent folks. And to close out, I also want to say the ACJ could stand to understand that to that end, that it's not just public defenders. The way that we handle investigators and mitigation specialists that are court-appointed needs to be formalized, where if once you are on a case and you have been appointed to that case by a judge or hired by the client, that is your authorization. And if you have clearance, we need to understand how you got clearance. There's nothing written about people who, I own my own mitigation and investigation firm.
Thank you. Keona Proctor. Keona Proctor. Diana Hall.
Diana Hull. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Barbara Griffin for her efforts to observe the food service operations and the quality of meals provided at the ACJ, and also thank the administration for allowing our group to come and see and tour the kitchen facilities. Rocco, the head of the food service at Trinity, gave us a nice tour, but on that day, operations were unusual due to the burst pipe that left the facility without hot water. The storage, we know about the styrofoam containers. The storage areas were well maintained with boxes placed on shelving at least 3 inches off the ground and on rolling carts, which allows for easy cleaning and access, and it was well organized. Rodent traps were visible and maintained by pest control contractor, and any evidence of pests were immediately reported and taken care of. Residents working on the food preparation area were supervised by Trinity employees. The workers wore gloves, masks, and hairnets. While not always perfectly positioned, they were generally worn correctly. A separate station was designated for the preparation of special diet trays, and I was able to see what was being served from the special diets, which was very acceptable. The lunch menu for that day, as you heard, but there was also a macaroni salad along with the others, which had a hint of a carrot. 2 slices of bread, piece of cake, and juice. All right, which I learned was a very favorite meal by the people that reside in the jail. The vegetarian tray had a soy veggie burger in place of the hot dogs, and a gluten-free tray featured boneless chicken breasts, corn tortillas, white rice, and carrots. No cake. While the meal was high in carbohydrates and calories, protein was adequate. Vegetables were very limited, aside from the beans. And fluids were insufficient, as residents are expected to drink water from the sinks in their cells. Concerns were raised about the taste and the healthiness of this water. Rocco explained about the calorie count that they, like Barbara suggested, but he also said that juveniles received additional milk, juice, and pancakes for breakfast. All of the kitchen workers earned food service certifications, which can benefit them in the future. And the jail is it's in discussion with community kitchens that might lead to apprenticeships. Our group sampled the lunch, remarked that the food was better than expected, very plentiful. At lunch, we were joined by Warden Wingard, Deputy Warden Connie Clark, along with Rocca, who answered our many questions. So thank you. I would also like to suggest to the members of the JOB to have unannounced visits to the kitchen and food prep areas so that we can keep Trinity Food Service accountable for their menus and a good presentation.
Thank you, Sharon
You're welcome.
Bonavoglia. Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to start with the reading of the names of the dead. So if you would please rise, if you are able, including the most recent death. Richard Lenhart, Robert Blake, Cody Still, Daniel Pastoric, John Brady, Martin Buchek, Robert Harper, Vinkley Harris, Justin Brady, Paul Allen, Roger Millspaugh, Paul Spisak, Gerald Thomas, Jerry Lee Ross Jr., Victor Joseph Zelenek, Ronald Andrus, Anthony Tolada, William Spencer, James Washington, Damon Leroy Kays, Tim Menino, Douglas Bonomo, Zachary Sam, Nicole Barufi, Richard Shuba II, Terrence Clowney, Tracy Hickey, Justin McAuliffe, and finally, Nathan Piernick. Please be seated. I did that today because I'm going to speak extemporaneously, and I'm sure I'm going to be cut off. And I'm so disappointed that Judge Ivashevich has left the room. So somebody tell her, dear God Almighty, I am so grateful for all of the changes that are happening with detainers and with the connection between the jail, the courts. Oh, Judge Ivashevich, thank you that you are using the power of the president of the court to institute the tremendous number of changes you instituted. I couldn't even hardly write them all down. I personally am so excited to see you using the power of your office to do those things. It will make me cry because it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference to get people out of the jail. And I'm not even sure I'm speaking for Penn right now because it all happened so fast I didn't know about these things. And I recall, Judge Ivashevich, when Sister Barbara Finch and I sat down with you just a month or two after you got this position, after you came into it, and we left excited for the possibilities. And it's no news to anybody here that I was mildly disappointed for a while, and I can be a real pain in the neck publicly, often. It's a gift. I use it here. And I just need to make sure that I'm also saying from the bottom of my heart, thank you that you are using that power. It is meaningful to me personally. It is so meaningful to the people at the jail. So, and I got cut off, and thank you.
Thank you. John Kostanowitz.
It's Kenstowitz.
Sorry. You know I screw up names all the time. It's not intentional.
I am sure our officers will be pleased with our warden following through with their request to establish a structure for our officers to communicate with their families. It is a critical lifeline considering how these 16-hour shifts working 4 to 5 days in a row are tearing their families apart. This will help repair some of the damage that has been done and give our officers hope that change can happen, especially when they make their needs known through our survey. Allegheny County's outstanding legacy is built by families connected and growing. With all of this forced overtime, our officers are constantly put in the position of choosing their job over their families. It is significant that we had quite a few frontline officers recently become sergeants. A consequence is that all those hours of work and the overtime they worked gets moved to forced overtime for more frontline officers. A key regarding our staffing problem is how we can keep our new recruits considering the many hours they work. Instituting the CO Family Communication Program will definitely help that. I hope most of the board has read our survey and have read the officers' comments regarding the board's relationship with the officers. There are some very realistic proposals our officers are providing to bring the board closer to be seen as a support. Depending upon how the board responds to their proposals, the board could be seen in time as a structure to improve the officers' morale. I was pleased to see that our warden responded to our officers' request in our survey for in-person hands-on training, which they have been asking for now for a couple of years. We will continue to highlight more parts of our survey in the coming months. I do think one has to admit that bringing our frontline officers' voice to the table has been successful in different respects and will continue to be successful. I do think a structural change in how these meetings are run by giving the union and our frontline officers time to present at every meeting, as is given to our administration, will have a lasting effect in how we can all work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Gregory Postenbach.
Good evening. My name is Gregory Postenbach. You pronounced that correctly.
Thank you.
Yes, the 3 H's, housing, healthcare, and one's history are the contributing factors for individuals that have a dual diagnosis, both of mental health and substance use, that increases recidivism after an institutionalization. With that taken into consideration, we cannot change one's history bringing them into an institution, but providing outstanding healthcare and access to housing could contribute to one's individual's success after release. Taking into consideration mental health components in the healthcare portion of institutionalization at Allegheny County Jail, BC evaluations or BC holds, not having any statistics on that may be an opportunity to see how many individuals are being housed for extended period of time that are waiting for a BC evaluation. Personally, I believe if an individual through the county and IRES is determined to be in hospitalized without their consent under a 302 hospitalization, if one is being institutionalized without their maybe consent due to a behavioral competency reason, there should be a deadline for that amount of time before they are seen, because I believe extended incarceration times and not having access to being seen for healthcare, mental health competency could I'm just trying to say that may just need to have a deadline. I don't know how to say that efficiently. The other part with individuals who are on a behavioral health pod, those individuals don't have access to have extra layers of thermal clothing through the commissary due to the restrictions. I know on those pods, they have to have certain items that they're restricted from having in their actual cell that are extra, but actually having communal access to those linens may be helpful during these winter months for some of those attendees on those pods. And the other point I wanted to bring up is individuals that are making telephone calls. If certain departments, or if you're calling someone that has an extension, or you have to dial in a number for a resource that you're trying to get a hold of a company, and there's a prompt where you have to dial an extension or hit it like 2 for English, you're unable to do that. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that any person who is ordered to have a behavior clinic evaluation is supposed to be evaluated within 72 hours of the order, and I'm going to look into data on that because it's an interesting question. Ross Tedder.
Good evening. My name is Ross Tedder. I am the Civic Engagement Director at the Alliance for Police Accountability. I'm also a resident of Allegheny County in Churchill. I'm not going to use the whole 3 minutes. I don't have a lot to say, but I have to say I believe it's important. I'm here to talk today about following up on what the gentleman said in the Fred Rogers Get Up. I don't know your name in the back, but he mentioned families, right? And having our families be aware of our well-being and how important that is, right? How many of you have children in a school system in this county? Just show of hands. How many of you have a loved one that's in a senior care facility? If something happened to them and you weren't notified, if they had to go to a hospital, if they had to get medical care and you weren't notified, how would that make you feel? Yeah, exactly, justifiably so. You should flip out. That's exactly what is happening to families who have members of their family incarcerated in our jail. As Councilmember Hallam said earlier, people are not being notified if their family member has an unplanned hospital run. If someone has a traumatic injury, if someone has a mental health episode, their family is not being notified. Not only are they not being notified, whenever they do inquire, they're being denied. It's getting caught up in paperwork, it's getting caught up in, a very unclear procedure, right? And our courts have the ability to stop that, right? Our courts have the ability to alter the custodial status, right, of someone who is experiencing a medical emergency, right? And that's not happening. So we need a policy, a codified policy, on how these kind of things are communicated to family members and the timeliness of that. And I don't want to get too doom and gloom or get too off topic here, right? But this is not disconnected from our broader political moment, right? We're in a moment where we don't just have to worry about the people who we elect, right, being in charge of what happens in our counties, in our jails, in our schools, right? The threat of people other than the folks who we elected being in control of our government is a non-zero number, right? And I know people don't want to think about that, but aside from just being the people who we think belong in jail, people who we define as criminals, right? Very soon that could be me and you for reasons that, right now are undefined, but that can be made up later, right? And so if we allow ambiguity to exist at a county level, at our state level, we are allowing ourselves to be abused later on through that ambiguity, right? So the accountability mechanisms, the codification that we have here, that's the only accountability we'll have, right, if these systems are used to harm us later. So thank you very much. I want to say again, the right to know this information about your family is a human right, and we are nobody to deny people that. So thank you.
Thank you. Tanisha Long.
All right, good evening. I know some of you will be happy to know that this is the last you are hearing from me this year, so you are welcome for that. But I do actually want to start off on a little bit of a positive tip. That doesn't happen often. I think when we started this year, there was a lot of questions, a lot of apprehension over what was going to happen with a change in administration and a change in warden. And we have seen a lot of positive things. Although they've committed no crimes, there are dogs in the jail. That's something I didn't expect to see. The kids are getting programming. People are getting more programming. Parents are able to see their children more often. These are things that we really just never thought we would see, and that's great. And I say that because I think that heading into next year, we have an opportunity to do a lot better, and we can keep improving. I think one of the things that struck me this year in one of these moments was when we had the sister of Otto Harris up here, and she was crying and, barely able to control herself because she had to hear from incarcerated people what had happened to her brother. And that's similar to the story of Juana Saunders, who had to hear that her son died from incarcerated people. They're not being communicated to from the jail. They're not being communicated to from doctors. They don't even know who to call when their incarcerated loved one is in the hospital because they don't know what hospital they're at. They're not granted privileges to visit them, even though if they're inside the jail, they'd be able to visit them. And they don't know anything. Next year, this board has the opportunity to pass a policy that makes it so that they are notified when something happens to their loved one. Because the only thing scarier than something happening to your loved one in a place where you can't reach them is not even knowing where they are and if the information you're receiving is accurate. And if we don't want people running to the news and asking the news for help to find out what happened to their loved one, then we need to be giving them the correct information, and we need to be using the powers of this board and this administration to do so. It's the most humane thing to do, and it's a low-level ask, and we don't do that. It doesn't make sense. Next year, I would like to see your corrections officers keep their hands off of incarcerated individuals. Again, we hear of somebody who was attacked by a corrections officer, but their fear of retaliation makes it so that they aren't willing to, speak publicly or have their family members advocate for them. I would like, the corrections officers you do have to not come to this board and nitpick at individual incarcerated people, which is a form of retaliation. There are things we can do to continue improving, and I don't think that asking for these improvements takes away from the massive changes we've seen in the Allegheny County Jail this year. These are things we want to continue. So we want to keep forward and go on that path. The board and the administration needs to continue to work together, and we're going to keep showing up. You're going to see me again next year. I'm sorry. But thank you.
Encore. I would just like to thank you and Mr. O'Connor. This is your last meeting. You've worked really hard for this board. You've poured your heart into it and your brain. You will be missed, and I greatly appreciate everything you've done. I really do. Even when we fight, I appreciate everything you've done. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, well, okay, I got some shit for you.